This is what I'm trying to get us all to think about, is how living systems come together according to their environmental needs. So we as human beings are living systems. As communities, we're living systems. As organisations, so as people going about their lives, we are living systems. So as I've already said, what emerges is a collective culture. So you cannot deconstruct what has emerged. You can't go, oh, that bit's wrong, take that bit out and change it with this. That's not how it will work. It will only emerge collectively what needs to happen. And crucially, what we heard is was no longer about gluing together existing egos. I just really think that's such an important point. This isn't about trading off leaders' needs or needs to look good or manipulating to get what you want. It wasn't about doing that any longer, but it was about ideas being created in ways that hadn't before by people coming together in that moment. So there's key learning there. It was only because we were in that moment with those people around that table that those ideas emerged. It wasn't because we came with old ideas and our own agendas of needing to be seen to do things or succeed at things or win things or earn money for things that we got what we wanted. We got what we wanted by everybody in the room creating what was needed: distress and uncertainty. And we really saw a difference between leaders who were able to do that on a very emotional level, on a very personal level, and those leaders who wanted to process it and create solutions and fix it. So there was a real disparity between lots of referrals to counselling services, not saying that's not a good thing, but what that communicated to staff was, you've got a problem and somebody else will fix it for you, not we are relating and connecting. I am hearing you and I am able to sit with you in your distress and hold you here, enable for us to co-regulate together and find ways through this together. To be brave, you have to feel safe. To feel safe, you have to feel trusted. And you cannot, same as purpose, you cannot just externally impose these values because you say you are. They have to be deliberately designed and embedded into your practice. But that fearlessness will not come without the safe base. The safe base won't come without the architecture to support it. And it's only us within the system. So remember, each player in that system, the collective creates the system. So each player in that system has a role to play in creating the architecture to create the safe base. There is no quick win. There is no single most valuable thing you can do with your time. You can take time to relate, and it's through relating that we emerge.
The New System Alliance is a group of organisations, initially a group of organisations of partners who set up a New System Alliance, which is looking at how we can completely and utterly change systems that at the moment are keeping people locked into a traumatising, ineffective system. And it's grown beyond that now. So it's now a group of people of any level in an organisation who are coming together to try and talk about and find ways through this failing system. I think it's because I've been part of times where we've worked with change from the bottom up, and it ends up meeting challenges from the top. Sometimes we work with change from the top down, and it meets the implementation gap, which is a really passive-aggressive, policy wonk way of describing the fact that you didn't communicate it well enough. And actually, I just thought, right, let's cut out this middle mess and get everyone together. So that's, and to work with the willing, not to cut out or ignore people who aren't willing or who need convincing, but within an organisation to find a body of people, whether it's a chief exec or a support worker or a receptionist or anyone, absolutely anyone, and I think one of the things we're really good at in policy and practice is hiding from the emotions and the pain of the reality of services. I think you have to have compassion and understanding and empathy for people who are currently in the system. And that's not just the people that we're working with, but also support workers, frontline practitioners, mental health practitioners. Because it probably doesn't need to be said, but sometimes I think we do need to say it. People care. People don't go into these roles to work in a failing system. People don't deliberately choose to do things that are ineffective or directly harmful in some cases. People take low-paid jobs or lower-paid jobs with very little opportunity for promotion because they like to work with people and they like to make a difference and help. So I think the first thing is we've got to recognise that humans are part of the system and that humans do things for human reason. We think vulnerable is intrinsically bad, but actually vulnerable just means really that you're open, and actually we need to reframe it as open leadership, and that you're willing to be vulnerable. So you're willing to have a chief exec who sits in a meeting with 10, 20 people hearing about how crap they are, and that's okay, and hopefully then we'll make sure we've got the trauma-informed support around people to make sure it's safe and warm and therapeutic. But you've got to have the willingness to hear some bad stuff, otherwise we'll never change. Things that seem simple and human and normal to do, or typical, I shouldn't use the word normal, are hard to do because the system stops it. So, for example, if we imagine a vulnerable or an open chief exec talking about everything they're getting wrong, they can talk about what they get right as well, because I'm sure there are, people get loads of things right. Then what happens when they talk to their commissioner or their funders, or when they're trying to fundraise? You can't, at the moment, with the current system we have, win contracts if you brag about how much you get wrong.
I think personal experience is an area in politics in general is missing. I think it's missing far too often. And that's where kindness for me started. And it started, we're speaking about kindness in public policy today, in public services. But it started as kind of politics for me. And that essence of, as politicians, as leaders of countries and worlds, we should behave in a way that is better towards each other. Now, if political leadership is the rough and tumble, and it has to be that way, then is there any surprise in what we put forward as policies and when we see perhaps things that aren't working, that we have to stick with them? Because that's the way we've done it in the past. Now, in politics, we're not going to get away from that perhaps blame game. That's always going to happen. That's what politics, and that's democracy. And I certainly don't, kind of politics for me isn't about removing that system where we can offer alternatives or scrutinise. That is absolutely not the case. One, we have to disagree, because no one always agrees all the time. We have to disagree in a kinder way. That's where the kind of politics comes out of it. You said failure, but instead of failure, why isn't it that it's actually just recognising the situation and rectifying the issue?
Yeah.
And I think that then doesn't enhance failure, does it? It actually creates success for the people who it really affects. I'm not talking about here kindness stops accountability. It doesn't at all. It really, really doesn't. It's about the way we do that. We can scrutinise, we can offer opposition, we can offer alternatives in a kind of fashion just by the conversations that we have. But that doesn't mean stopping accountability of our leaders, our governments, our decision makers. Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah. I think that we can be thorough and frank without intimidating, bullying, personal attacks. We can do that, and that's what we should be doing.